Hi folks, Eric Carlson here again with video 6 in our series of problems and solutions. Again, I am running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District in Illinois on the Republican ticket. I would appreciate your support. As we go into this video is going to be about something that's very close to me, and I'll be doing another video after this discussing some stuff in depth, but the criminal justice reform. And especially in this district, you have different ways of doing things. Now we are part of 3 counties: Cook County, Will County, and a portion of Kankakee County. Um, I'm going to mainly address Cook County in this video because that is the largest area and where the majority of the population in this district is, and it's also it's a contentious issue because you have a lot of mistrust of the legal system, and rightly so, and you have mistrust of police because of this, and we need to work to get that out of the way. Now, a lot of these things that I'm going to go over should be covered at the local level with your mayors, with your county boards, state representatives, state senators, people like that. And there's a woman named Felicity Joy, and she's running for U.S. Senate in the 49th district here in Illinois as a state senator. And if you could give a look over at her stuff, and she is all about this too, criminal justice reform and getting things back on track as far as being able to trust each other, and not have this stuff affect our daily lives, the stuff that we all hear on the news. So I'm going to go through this stuff. I'm going to start off with criminal justice. I'm going to start on this side with jails and prisons. Jails and prisons, a lot of people realize that they become a business in this country. In a lot of states, they become privately owned corporations, so they actually make money by having people incarcerated. Now in Illinois, it doesn't. We don't have private institutions, but the way it happens, like in the Cook County Jail, they get paid. They get X amount of dollars per day for every inmate that they have locked up in the institution. If you see, Cook County Jail is the biggest single site jail in the world. LA County has more inmates, but they're spread out at least 5 locations. Cook County is the single biggest jail in the world. And that it's a revolving door. People are in and out of there every night, getting arrested for stuff and then turned back out. And the state pays the county money every time that happens. And of course, as we know, the state doesn't have money. It has to get it through tax revenues. So that's taxpayer money. These are all things that could be used to better your life through other programs. If you put some of that money into mental health care, that would solve a lot of these problems in drug addiction programs. And again, going back to our earlier video, jobs. If you can get these people jobs, you're going to cut down on the crime. There's much less need for that. But what you lose then is you lose all the county employees that it takes to run this huge court system that's spread out at 5 locations, the jails, everything that the county runs is a moneymaker. These are basically patronage jobs. And I'm going to go into this, and I know what I'm talking about because I was a Cook County Sheriff's deputy, so I can give you the inside scoop on this. I've seen both sides, and I'm going to go into that in this video and the next video. But it is a money-making machine for them, and they hand out these jobs to people to get in there, and these are patronage jobs. So if we get you a job, a politician, sheriff is an elected office in all these counties. If I get you a job on a county, then you and your family are basically beholden to me for your paycheck. So you're going to vote the way I say. And they happen to all be Democrat, at least in Cook County. Will County goes back and forth. It's kind of mixed. Kankakee County, I believe that their sheriff is a Republican. So mental health care. And you got to get rid of the revolving door part. So kind of in between this, I sandwiched police, and we talked about that in an earlier video. The biggest thing for the police would be training. The police, and this is, like I say, the police have a hard job, and it's a necessary job, and we're lucky to have them out there doing that stuff. This is not, by no means am I anti-law enforcement. I absolutely am pro-law enforcement, but it has to be proper law enforcement. And to get them the proper training is going to give them, number one, better interactions with the public. It's going to give better safety to the officers and the public. You won't have all these incidents you hear about. Some of these, you had the incident up in Minnesota not too long ago where the female officer mistook her taser. And if you've never been in a stressful situation like that, your senses, you lose the ability to feel and touch and the way you normally would. So that is entirely plausible. But the jury made their decision up there. We're not arguing about that. What I'm saying is that with more training, you're going to have less of those issues, which would be less divisive amongst the public. Good cops need to get rid of bad cops. This is on them, and this is, as much as the police talk about, the don't snitch. In the city of Chicago, you have the don't snitch policy in your neighborhood. You don't want to talk to the police or tell on somebody, because you'd be considered a snitch. The police have to look at themselves the same way. That they used to call it the blue code of silence. That does no one any good. You're not doing yourself and your profession any good. You're not making your job any easier by doing that stuff. I don't believe the people who say, well, there's only 1%, some people on the right will say, well, there's only 1% of bad cops. That's not true. The percentage is higher, but it's maybe tops out at 10%. So that means you got 9 good cops that show up to a thing, and then you'll have one, like a Derek Chauvin, who's just a total idiot who does shit like that. And I was the first, if you look at my Facebook post, I was the first one to come out and say, I would have been arrested that day had I been on the street, because I would have told Chauvin to get off him, and then I probably would have tackled Chauvin and wound up getting cuffed myself. But that's not hyperbole. That's when people cross the line. I don't care if they're wearing a badge. People need to call them out. Their fellow cops need to weed that out, because it reflects badly on them. And most cops know this. Most cops want to do the right thing. So if people just open up and have a conversation with cops, things are going to get better. We'll go down to, let's go back up here to corrupt prosecutors. Now, this has been a lifelong issue of mine in Cook County. The prosecutors here, again, are elected. Now, you see in Chicago, and a lot of people across the country know that we have Kim Foxx. Kim Foxx is not prosecuting certain crimes. She's letting people out. But one of the biggest jokes that she has played on the people, and this costs the tax people, and you see this in the lawsuit of the city of Chicago, all the police man hours and everything that went into the Jussie Smollett thing, and this was divisive. The decision she made was very divisive, and everybody in Chicago, I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, everybody in Chicago knew that this was a scam from day one. As soon as they told the story, as soon as they say what night it was on, what the weather was like, what neighborhood it was in, and supposedly who came and did it in that neighborhood. Come on, man. Seriously. The part of my campaign is no more bullshit. Everybody knew that. Everybody here knew that. But the politicians put it out there because it went to their national narrative of everything is racial. So it was anti-gay and it was anti-racial. That was their narrative. They needed that to fit the narrative. Well, it turned out that it didn't happen. It never happened. It was something personal that Jussie Smollett was either looking for attention or whatever his motive was. This caused a lot of people a lot of pain. And the politicians and the news media went and ran with it. You saw all these big name politicians nationwide calling people out and saying, we must end this and everything. Well, there's nothing to end because it never happened. And the same thing happened, this is a little off topic, but with the race car driver, Bubba Wallace, in NASCAR. Sometimes a pull handle is just a pull handle. People need to, this is where people get it. The voters get it. The voters see the common sense message. They're having this stuff forced down their throat by the media and politicians to get their narrative, to keep you afraid and to keep us fighting each other. That's exactly why they do this stuff. There's absolutely no reason. Common sense and reason. We will sit there and look at that and say, that didn't happen. And we all did. Everybody knew it. Even though there was a black female comedian on, and she was saying, yeah, she's like, everybody in Chicago, all the black folks said, right off the bat. We have so much more in common than we have differences. And we know bullshit when it's feeding to it, but we don't stand up. We don't get a chance to voice that. That's why I'm running for Congress. That's why I'm doing this. It's not because I want to do this. Believe me, I'd rather be doing a lot of things. But the corrupt prosecutors, and it's not just Kim Foxx. This has been going on for a long time. If you guys remember, this was a political move because of the narrative in the nation, what you needed to keep this race baiting going and the fear mongering. there was a guy named Veneco, Richard Veneco, in 2004. Now, he's the nephew of the former Mayor Daley, who was still mayor at the time. But Mayor Richard Daley, his nephew, got into a bar fight. Well, it was actually outside on the sidewalk, and he punched a much smaller guy, knocked him out, knocked him back. He hit his head, and he wound up dying. He was never charged with a crime. Chicago police covered up the investigation, didn't do anything. It took 8 years for somebody. His mother had a real journalist worth his salt. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name, but went and investigated this and uncovered everything and tried to get it. And finally, they got an indictment in 2012 against this kid for manslaughter. I shouldn't say he's a kid. He was a grown man. He was like 6'3" or 6'4". The other guy was like 5'8". But that shows you the power of the Daleys and the Democrats in this. When he mentioned who he was, those police went, "Oh man," and it puts them in a bind, because now they're like, "Oh well, what's that gonna do to my career? Am I gonna get shit assignments after this?" It affects their life. They shouldn't have to think like that. They should be like, "No, dude, you did wrong. You're going down. I don't care who your uncle is." But that's not what happened. That's not what happened in this case. And you got to remember, in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, the old Mayor Daley, the first Mayor Daley, got his son jobs. You got to realize who the last Mayor Daley, Richard M. Daley, he was the Cook County prosecutor. He was the Cook County State's Attorney before this. So he hired a lot of these people who are in there now. He gave them the start of their career. You don't think that they owe him the Chicago way? We are the number one corrupt state in the country. Illinois is number one in corruption, and this goes back to the 1970s. They did a study on convictions of elected officials by state, back to I believe 1971. You can look this up on the internet. Illinois was number one in indicted elected officials, and that's just the ones that they caught. Now I want to explain something to you about how that works. When you're the Daleys, you get your son in to be the Cook County State's Attorney, so they won't prosecute you. They are tight with who? The Madigans. Madigan, who just left, is the longest speaker of any state in any state house in the country. Michael Madigan controlled the state of Illinois for over 30 years. Actually, closer to 50 years. It was in the 70s that he started, but he was speaker in the early 80s, I believe, is when he first, and he was only out of that office for 2 years. In that time, from the early 80s up until last year, when he finally got booted out. And he is under investigation right now for stuff to do with Commonwealth Edison. So he'll be the next one getting prosecuted, along with Alderman Ed Burke and all these other Democrats. But the Madigans, what did they do? He's the Speaker of the House in Illinois. He gets his daughter elected as Illinois State's Attorney. And this was about the time Barack Obama was going to run for president. So the Democrats had the county locked up, Cook County locked up. Nobody was going to investigate him there. The state locked up. Nobody was going to investigate him there. And then the Democrat Party, the Chicago machine, pushed Barack Obama through to get him to Washington. Who did they send with Barack Obama to be his chief of staff? They sent Bill Daley, Mayor Daley's brother, to keep an eye on Barack and tell him what was going to happen there. So they appointed Eric Holder. So now they had also sway at the at the federal level. They controlled the Department of Justice now. So Department of Justice, the state level, and the county level. No one's coming looking into your business here in Chicago. It is a license to steal. That's how things work here. If you're watching this from out of the state, you don't know how this stuff works. That's how it works. And it betrays the voters, and it absolutely destroys this. You know how much money we lose because the way these people do things? And how much have they lost in lawsuits? Cook County, Illinois is the number one county in the entire nation, 50 states, and all the Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands. You put them all together. Cook County is number one in wrongful convictions. That is a stat you can go look up right now. And again, I said I'm gonna talk about this in another video too. But this is a very sore spot with me. The wrongful convictions, the stuff that goes on, the lives that get ruined, the families, the way things get destroyed because of these people. And it goes back to politics, money, the influence. So looking at these cases, these are just two examples. I can give you tons of them. The Ford Heights 4, there's so many of them. Literally, all you have to do is Google wrongful convictions in Cook County, and you will see everything will come up going back years, decades. Um, and this brings us to the judges. Now, the judges in Cook County, if you look at a ballot of judges in Cook County, you will see no R's next to any name. Every single one of them is a Democrat. So they are all beholden to the Democrat Party. In order to get elected, you have to be slated. You have to get on the ballot. In order to get slated, the party has to nominate you to put you at. So if 3 or 4 attorneys want to be a judge there, it's about who donates the most money to the Democrat Party and who the Democrat Party thinks that they can influence and use on who's going to make decisions when their cousin gets in trouble and goes before them. That's the way it has always worked here. And if anybody wants to, media personnel wants to sit down with me, I can give you personal stories. I have insider knowledge on a lot of this stuff. So when I tell you that I know what I speak of, I will not bullshit you and I will not lie to you. When they get slated, they get put on the bench. These are not the best people. These are not the best people for the job, not the brightest people, not the fairest people. They are people who want power for themselves. It's a powerful position. It pays, I think the last time I looked was $173,000 a year. And basically nobody can touch you. You can do whatever you want in Cook County. Nobody's going to touch a judge in Cook County. The political pressure from these guys being beholden to the Democrat Party, it works both ways. They are not going to do anything to upset the Democrat apple cart. So when things come down, rulings in certain cases, there are some judges who buck it. There are a few, but there are very few and very rare. Again, these are not the best people. Corruption. This goes back to we haven't had a good investigation here from the feds into what goes on here in Cook County in the longest time. But if anybody out there remembers Greylord, this was back, I want to say it was late 70s, early 80s, if I recall. I remember I was a kid and I remember hearing all about it. It was all on the news. But the feds had come in and they busted, literally dozens of judges in Cook County went down and went to prison for the stuff that they were doing, taking kickbacks, bribes, across the board. That's not a justice system. That's a third world dictatorship under the Democrat Party, with each one getting their own little fiefdom. Each political office has their own little fiefdom with control. And who gets punished? The people. The people in Cook County. And the Democrat Party doesn't care about you. They know they come in, they give you their scare tactics, and they're going to tell you have to vote Democrat because otherwise the Republicans are going to come in and make things bad for you. Really? What have the Republicans done to you? It's been Democrats that run everything. Everything in your life is run by Democrats. When you look out your door and you see the trash on the street and the gang violence and everything else going on, and kids are getting arrested and hassled by police for no reason, but then they're not getting prosecuted, and it creates a bad situation for everyone. So how do we do this? Again, a lot of this stuff needs to be dealt with at the local level. You need to start getting good people elected, putting good people forward, good leaders forward. Black community needs to step up. Stop getting these people like, and I know this is going to anger some people, but if you get people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton who are out there just to get in front of the camera and to race bait and to keep people divided, they don't solve any problems. I know a lot of black people personally that would be great leaders. I served with a lot of great guys that would be outstanding leaders, but you know why they won't do it? Like I said in my first video, because good people will not run for office because of the way they get dragged through the mud. So again, that's why I'm doing this. Solutions. I like to give you solutions here. So the solutions that I could give you at the federal level would be more federal oversight. I would like the Department of Justice to come in and do a top-down investigation of all the judges, the way Cook County legal system is run. I know they did, after the Laquan McDonald shooting, they came in and they did a top-down look at the Chicago police, and the stuff they came back with was, one of the things that I touched on is lack of professionalism and lack of training. And that is always, and like I said, that's not a knock on the cops. If you don't know any better, if you've only been given, third grade education, that's what you know. If you haven't been given master classes in stuff you need to do your job properly, you don't know what you don't know. And that's the problem. So getting cops training, putting money towards that, refunding and actually increasing the budget for the police is what you need to do. That's going to solve a lot of problems. It will solve a lot of problems. It sounds simple. Again, coming from a special operations background, when you train the basics ad nauseum, which is what we did in the Ranger Battalion, we trained like you wouldn't believe for the basics. Until you have the basics down, you can't do the more advanced things. But when you can do the basics and when they become second nature and muscle memory, you don't have to worry about that stuff. You can do your job as calm and cool and collect. I see some of these cops and they panic. It's like they've never been in a situation. Again, like that shooting that happened up in Minnesota. That woman was not ready to be out on the street. She had never been placed in a stress. I don't care how many years she had been a cop. That might have been her first stressful situation like that. And the result you got was not good for anyone. Her life and career is destroyed. You had someone killed. You had other people that are traumatized, family that lost family members. But both sides need to look at what the other side's saying. There's two sides to this, and you can work together. You're not at odds. If you work together, you should not be at odds. Term limits for judges in Cook County. You have to have term limits, and part of it is no party affiliation. And I go back and forth on this. No party affiliation would kind of remove a little bit. They would still have to get on there. So how would you get the judges on? They would have to run as independent candidates. So they wouldn't be beholden to any party. They couldn't give donations to any party. That would be one of the rules. That would have to get looked at again at the local level. This is an issue to look at. But also with the prosecutors, and this is something that I've thought over, and I'm not sure of the exact way to go about it. But I don't think that prosecutors should be, the state's attorney should be an elected office. And the reason behind that is because then they fall into the Democrat mindset, like you see Kim Foxx. She's going to do what's going on at the national level, which you see, this no bail and not prosecuting people and letting people get away with crime, and you see the crime go through the roof. You see crime spiking here in Chicago, all the property crime that's going on, carjackings. There was literally, the average was like 14 carjackings a day in Chicago in 2021. That's how do you live in a city like that? I said this when Lori Lightfoot got elected. Now, Lori Lightfoot got elected in an off election year when only like 26% of the electorate came out to vote. So she won. She probably had, like, if you look at the entire electorate in the city of Chicago, she probably had like 15% of the people in the city of Chicago vote for. That is not a mandate. She went in and just started pissing people off right off the bat. She is so far in over her head. She does not know what she's doing, and you're seeing the results. I said when she got elected that in about 5 years, Chicago would look like Detroit. When you chase people out, when you allow people to commit these crimes, on the smash and grabs and all this other stuff, businesses are going to leave. And when the businesses leave, the people who run those businesses are going to leave also. So not only their personal income tax base, but the tax from the businesses are also going to leave. They're going to go to other states or at least other cities. So you're going to lose that income stream. And once you lose the tax base, you have everyone in the city that can get out is going to get out. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring your budget so far down, you're not going to have the police and fire protection you need, and it's just a downward spiral. And for some reason, Democrats do not get this. Their policies are just idiotic, absolutely mind-numbingly idiotic. That's why I'm asking folks, like in this district, it's I believe the way they redrew it, it's like D plus 27. So technically, if I win the nomination for the Republican ticket, I should be beat by 27 points by the Democrats. Why am I doing this? Why am I beating myself up and beating my head against the wall? Because I know that I can do a better job. I know I can represent everybody here. I know that I have more in common with everybody in this district, and you're going to see some of this in the next video, than any of the other candidates that they're going to put up there. It's not based on race. It's based on life experience, what we've seen, what we've done, where we've been. I have probably more experience than anyone running in this race across a myriad of topics that we face. And we'll have a chance to debate that. We'll have a chance to, You know, you can look at the other candidates. Right now, I'm running in a Republican primary. I believe there's one woman who's running against me. Uh, I don't like to say running against me. Like I said, I reached out to them to try and get a unifying message. You know, Republicans are together, and we are. And I told her campaign, if she beats me in the primary, I will absolutely help out with her and back her up and vote for her. It's time for a change. The Democrat mindset is what needs to be changed. Um, so that's it. Like I said, a lot of this stuff needs to be changed at the local level. But if you keep in that Democrat mindset, if you want to vote Democrat, if it's a reason of, I don't understand why people can't look at the issues and the people. You see what's happening with Joe Biden right now. His numbers are falling through the floor. People are leaving him left and right. The Democrats are going to hit you with more scare tactics because they're worried. A lot of blacks are leaving the Democrat Party. They're seeing through it. And you're seeing that now, and they're leaving in large numbers. And you saw that Donald Trump doubled his support in the black community between 2016 and 2020. Now, why do you think that was? That scared the Democrats. That scared them badly. So what are they doing? They're bringing in a bunch of illegals now to try and replace black voters. They think, well, if they're actually seeing the light, we got to bring in some new people that we can trick who don't really know how it works here, and we'll just tell them, hey, we're going to give you everything, and we're going to give you the right to vote. You saw what just happened in New York City. They're allowing illegals to vote in local elections. Well, how do you put a cap on that? How do you know that they're not coming in voting in the national election? Because that affects you here. Nationally, that affects what happens throughout the nation. Everyone in this country should be pissed about that, and the Fed should step in and say, absolutely no way. We'll cover the voting stuff in another video, but I wanted to get this one out to talk about a thing, like I said, that's near and dear to me, the criminal justice reform here. And I know I probably have a lot more in common with the voters in Cook County than the other counties. Again, I support law enforcement. Law enforcement is necessary. They have a hard, dangerous job. You see the disrespect, the number of police that were killed last year. It's out of control. And if we don't rein this in, and having a party in power that has a policy that doesn't back the police is just wrong, flat out wrong. All right. Again, my name is Eric Carlson. I'm running for Congress in Illinois' 1st Congressional District. Check me out on Facebook, on Twitter, and I will be doing more videos like this so people can see the issues that we face, what I look at, how I look at the problems, and some solutions that I put forward. So hopefully you'll support me. Thank you. See you on the next one.